Hey folks, welcome back. In the last video, we made a 3D model of this sign. In this video, we're going to keep going through. Let me get my standards table open. Where did it go? There's that PDF document. So in this video, we're going to cover these three learning targets. You're going to learn how to use the 3D software to set up solid models in the CAM programming environment. You are going to create tool paths needed to efficiently produce your desired finished product. And you're going to simulate tool paths using the CAM software. Okay? So I left this open after my last video. If you've shut Inventor down, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. If you've shut Inventor down, your object should show up under this pinned file when you first open Inventor up. Just a couple things to check. If it doesn't show up there, if you click the File tab, it will show you your last, I think it's 12 documents that you've worked on. So here's my engraved sign here. If it's still not showing up, the last place you could look before you have to start new is if you come down to your File Explorer and click on it, your File Explorer will show you your 20 most recent files. So unless you've created 20 new files on your computer's hard drive since yesterday, your engraved sign should be on here somewhere. But like I said, for most of you, unless you click this trash and you removed it from the list, your file is going to be right here under the pinned file. So let's go ahead and we're going to double click it. Okay. Now, today's work, we're going to spend a lot of time on this CAM tab up top here. If you don't have this CAM tab, again, hopefully you do, but if you don't have this CAM tab, you're going to need to close Inventor down, come down to the bottom here and search for the Software Center. And then once you've got the Software Center open, you can download and install Inventor Cam. And you can't download and install Inventor Cam when Inventor is open. So make sure to shut down Inventor first. I'm going to assume if you're still listening to the video, you've got Inventor Cam installed. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do is set this file up. That's just a fancy word for tell it where its home spot is. So I'm going to click on the Setup button. Okay, and oops, my Inventor has been running kind of weird tonight. I don't think it likes my Wi-Fi at home or something. So I'm just telling it where its starting point is. Right now, this X, Y, and Z are right in the middle of the project. We want to start at the lower left-hand corner. Remember, we talked about that yesterday. So what I'm going to do on the setup box here is I'm going to come down where it says origin, and I'm going to change it from a stock box point to the model origin. All right, that should snap the X, Y, and Z axes onto your project so it looks like mine does. If it doesn't, your other option is to come into, the origin and go to a selected point. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in on another corner and use it as an example. All right, so on this one, because I just moved my origin, I can come in. You can see I get this little yellow dot on the lower corner of my box. So I could click here, and that should set my X, Y, and Z in the right spot. Okay. I'm going to go with model origin because I know that's what I want. Then I'm going to click OK. And I can see I've got setup number 2 because I practiced number 1 and I deleted it, but yours should say setup number 1 over here. Okay, when you see that, you can kind of mentally check off this first box here because you've used the software to set up a solid model in the CAM programming environment. All right, so next we're going to create tool paths. We're going to do 2 tool paths here needed to efficiently produce our desired finished product. All right, so let's go back to Inventor. I'm going to hit the save button too since I just did that setup. I don't want to lose my setup. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to work on is, I'm trying to tilt this so I got kind of a straight on view, is I'm going to work on this border area. So I'm going to tell it I want it to do some machining in there. Okay, and the machining I want to do is a 2D contour. So under the 2D milling, I'm going to find the one that looks like a square with an outline, and that's my 2D contour. So I'm going to click 2D contour. I'm going to wait patiently. It should open over here on your model bar area. Okay. And we're going to work our way through these 5 tabs up top right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a tool. You can see, again, I've been in here. I've done a little bit of practice. So I get a 1/4 inch flat mill showing up. but you're going to need to find that. So you're going to go click the plus by type. You're going to click on flat mill. It's going to bring up all these different flat mills, and you're going to search for a 1/4 inch because we're going to use a 1/4 inch diameter cutter. And you could go ahead and pick any of these, right? If you were cutting through metal, or you worked in a machine shop, or you're doing lots of different machining, you would probably, have some different mills for different types of metal, different types of material. But for what we're doing in our woods class, any of these will get us the results we want. So go ahead and select one. And then on this screen here, I just want you to check a couple of things. Under feeds and speeds, make sure your cutting feed rate is set for 60 inches per minute. That means the cutter head will travel up to 60 inches in a minute, or about an inch a second. And then the plunge feed rate should be half of that. So your plunge feed rate should be 30 inches per minute. Once we've confirmed those two, then we're going to come on to this geometry tab. Now, this is where we pick the geometry that we want the cutter to follow around. So that would be the details that we selected yesterday. And so I'm going to move this from a straight on view to kind of an isometric view using this view cube up top. And then without selecting anything, I'm going to kind of zoom in by just pinching my fingers on the stylus. I got to go back to the view cube. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. And I was going to try and slowly kind of click on my view cube and just rotate a little bit. So I've still got kind of a 3D view, but I can see the bottom inside corner on this border that we created around our text. Yeah. I'm going to come over here where it says contour to selection, and it's already picked. So just make sure it's highlighted in blue. If it looks white like this, go ahead and click it again to highlight it in blue. And then we're going to pick this kind of lower inside corner, and we're going to tell it that's the contour we want it to follow to give us our 2D contour. And we're going to skip over all of these other option boxes here. We're going to skip over this heights tab. If we were doing multiples of this sign, we might change some of these offsets so our bit doesn't have to lift up and move so much. But we're going to go with the presets since we're just making one sign. Okay, we're going to go to the passes tab. Under the passes tab, I'm going to scroll down to multiple depths, and I'm going to check multiple depths. And then in this first box here, I'm going to change it from this seemingly random number. I'm going to change it to 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch. That's half the diameter of our bit. So a good rule of thumb when we're cutting through wood is we'll typically go down in steps of about half the diameter of our cutting bit. And then for my finish step down, I'm going to tell it the same thing. I want to finish step down at 0.125. Sometimes you'll make a real light cut at the end just to get a nice finish, but we're going to go for speed with this project. And then down here, I'm going to check use even step downs. So now that I've selected all of that, I'm going to go to the final tab up top here, which is my linking tab. And for this borderline, I'm going to turn off the lead in. I'm going to turn off the lead out. And that is all I need to do here. So I'm going to click OK. Okay, you'll see up here where it says Tool 1 2D Contour. I've got 1 kilobyte of information. All right, so usually that's an indicator that maybe I didn't get a tool path. We're going to go ahead and check this out in just a second using the Simulate tool. Before we do, I want to go into the proficiency table and show you that you have just created one of your tool paths. Okay, so next we're going to simulate to confirm our tool path is doing what it should do. And so here's the simulate button up top here. Yours is going to look a little different when you get in. It'll probably look like this. May not say Mr. Coleman, but it'll look like this. So if you check this box here, it'll put a little green filter on and make your box look solid. And then when you come over here and hit the play button, you can see the contour that your object is going to follow, and it'll kind of lighten up and give you a 3D appearance for where it's going to cut in. So I was nervous because I saw 1 kilobyte. I wasn't sure if it did what I wanted it to do. But now if I look at this, I can see the blue line. That's where the center of my bit is going to go. And if I zoom in a little bit, I start to get that 3D view. So this did, in fact, because I simulated it, I can tell it did make one of my profiles. So I'm going to click close down here at the bottom of simulate. I'm going to hit the save button because I definitely want to keep what I've got. So now instead of having it just trace one line, we're going to use this 2D pocket command for all of the text that we've got. And so once I hit 2D pocket, this menu is going to pop up. It should look very familiar. Up top here, just confirm that your 1/4" flat end mill is picked. Okay? That way we don't have to change any tools while we're cutting. It'll just go from one tool path to the next. And then I'm going to go into my geometry tab. This one's going to be a little trickier to select our pocket. I'm going to tip this again so I can kind of see kind of like the shoulder where the vertical and the flat bottoms are meeting up. And then I'm going to use my zoom. Okay, and what I want to do is try and pick the bottom of all of my text. So you can see I came in there and I picked the bottom. Here I can pick the bottom. I will do it with the period, with the K. And if you want to fast forward and don't want to listen to me spell my entire name while I do this, feel free to do so. But anyhow, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to continue picking the bottom of each one of these. All right, so I'm zooming in and out. You'll notice each time you hit one, your computer might get a little laggier. That's because you're adding more and more information to what you're asking it to do. It's got a lot of really complex curves and like mathematical formulas that it's running in the background to figure out how it's going to most efficiently cut this out. So if it seems like your computer is getting slow, it probably isn't just you. Your computer probably is getting slow. All right, so there I've got my whole name picked. I've got some letters kind of sunken in. I've got some arrows there that we're not going to worry about just yet. Now we're going to, again, skip over the heights tab because we're only making one of these. We're going to come into passes. Just like before, we're going to click on multiple depths. Okay, and we're going to change that random number to 1/8 of an inch. We're going to do the same for the finishing step down. And then I'm going to come here where it says stock to leave. I'm going to have it cut right tight to my lines on this one. So I'm going to uncheck stock to leave. And then I'm going to move on to this 5th linking tab up top. Again, we'll turn off the lead in, we'll turn off the lead out. This time it assigned a ramp to it of a helix. And we don't want to do a helix. We want it to be a plunge. So it's going to drop straight in for each of these letters. So go ahead and change your ramp type to plunge. We'll click OK. It might take a little longer this time to get to 100%, right, depending on what your text looks like. And now if we look in here, we should see some blue lines showing us where our tool path is. Again, I don't see blue lines. I'm not going to panic just yet. I do have some information if I click the plus and I expand my 2D pocket. So I might have created a tool path. It might just not be showing up yet. So I'm going to click on simulate. And I can already tell I've got something gone wrong here because it's drawn all over the top of this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. All right, there it is, cutting out the border. That was the first one. We know that works good. So now it's going to jump to the 2D path. Okay, and I can see it's starting to cut out some of the letters, not all of them in my name. And now it's starting to do something funky where it's going around the outside. So I'm going to say close. And this is why we simulate. This is not what I want. So I'm going to close. And I'm going to come over here to my 2D pocket because that was one that gave me issues. And I'm going to go to edit. Okay, if you had the same thing happen, you might have to do some editing. And I'm guessing what happened is maybe a couple of these letters where it was giving me the arrow threw it off somehow. So I'm going to clear my pocket selection and I'm going to come through and try and pick it again. Again, if you don't want to watch me do this whole thing, you can fast forward through here. You know, those two are looking a little different now. I'm not seeing the arrows on them like I was with some of the other stuff. Oh, now this one, I think this is what I did before that maybe messed me up. I just picked the top, not the bottom of that pocket. Okay. So I'm going to see if I can click on that arrow. And see, it's turning funny colors. I think that's what messed me up the first time. I might have to clear this selection out again. Okay, and we'll see if the third time is in fact a charm for me. A little nervous. I'm seeing that arrow on that first one. Now, if you've got a mouse, this might be a little bit easier. With your mouse, you could use the roller ball for zooming in and out. If you hold down on the roller ball of your mouse and move it left to right or up and down, you can actually rotate stuff using your mouse. Sometimes that's a little easier than the stylus. Yeah. I'm going to say okay. And now this time, I'm feeling a little bit better about this because as I'm looking at the text that's on here, I don't see yellow lines going everywhere on it. It looks like it's just bouncing from letter to letter in my name. So I'm going to hit save because it's looking like we're on the right path. I'm going to simulate it. And then I'm going to hit play. And it looks like it's cutting some, but not all of the letters in my name. And I think the reason for that is I'm cutting with a 1/4 inch mill, but I think certain text that I picked is maybe a little bit smaller than 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do to fix that is close this simulate window. You might have to do the same thing. I'm going to come into model, and extrusion 3 is where I set my name up. So I'm going to click the plus by extrusion 3. I'm going to right click on this sketch and go into edit sketch. And then I'm going to double click my text. All right, and usually the easiest way to fix this is if I highlight all of my text. So I'm editing my text, and then I hit the bold button. Okay, that'll usually make it a little bit bigger because it's bold. I'm going to click OK. Oh, now it's not fitting in there again. So let's double click. Oh, how big should I make this? I'm going to make it 1.9. Right. So there it got a little shorter, but the letters got wider. I think that's what I want, and I'm going to finish my sketch. Okay. And when I come back to the cam tab, you'll notice I got some X's here. That's because I changed the shape of it all. So I'm going to right click on the first contour, and I'm going to say generate toolpath. Then I'm going to right click on this next one and say generate toolpath. All right. Ooh, and I like this because it looks like it's getting more text in there. All right, so I like the direction we're going here. I'm going to hit the save button. I'm going to simulate it. And we'll go ahead and play it. Okay, you're going to have to kind of go through this process. Again, some of you that might be once. Some of you, this might be a cycle you need to repeat a few times here. Until you get everything picked. And then if I go to a kind of a front on view, I got the cutter head in the way, so I can close off the tool and it'll show me what it's going to carve in. So this looks like it's going to do a good job of getting all my text in there. I like the way it looks. I don't know if you're noticing what I am. I missed the period in my name. Again, I got a little gap on the A there. I think that'll look okay on that A, but I do want to go back and get the period in. So I'm going to close this out. And if I right click and I go to edit, okay, I can go back to the pocket selection tab. I'm going to go into that kind of 3D view, and I'm going to come in and pick the bottom of that period. Say OK. All right, now it looks like it's going to do some tool path in there. I can see the blue line where the cutting is going to take place. So I'm going to simulate it one more time. I can kind of drag this bar along to advance it a little bit quicker. There, I can see I've got the period. So I like what I got. I'm going to save this. And at this point, again, we can stop what we're doing. You might take a break for the day, or you can move on to the next video, depending on where you're at in this progression.